So, today I want to talk about my top 10 songwriters. Now, I realize this is kind of a subjective thing because how do you measure the greatness of a songwriter? Is it by the impact of one song? Is it by the amount of songs they've written? How significant the artist remains through the years? Or is it by sales? Now, obviously, I'm not going to tell you which songwriter made the most money or what song means the most to the world. I can tell you what means the most to me, what songwriters influenced my writing, and songwriters that I continuously return to no matter how many times I listen to them or read their lyrics or hear their melodies. I had quite a hard time making this list because honestly, there are so many songwriters I absolutely adore and can't get enough of. So if there are songwriters that you like that I haven't included in this list that you want me to listen to, please write them down in the comments below. If I don't know them, I'll go have a listen. I should mention that I was never really into these lists, although lately I've been getting more into them because I feel it might introduce someone to a songwriter they didn't know. I've been looking at other lists and learned things I didn't know, and that's pretty cool. My 10th place songwriter is Willie Nelson. Willie Nelson has been around forever, and he's influenced me in ways that even I didn't know. He wrote songs that I didn't know were his, like Crazy. I heard Patsy Cline do that. I didn't know that was his. Or Always on My Mind by Elvis. Obviously, I know it now, but when I was a kid, I just heard those songs and loved them. And honestly, you can dig and dig and dig through Willie Nelson's work, and there's always more. That's the beautiful thing about some of these songwriters. If I were to recommend 3 songs by Willie Nelson, they would be Crazy, Always on My Mind, and Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain. There's so many, really. My 9th place songwriter is Stevie Wonder. Aside from being an absolute musical beast, he's an incredible lyricist, incredible songwriter. He's just the soul of music. I doubt there are many people who don't know who Stevie Wonder is or haven't listened to his music, but I mean, come on, Sir Duke, Superstition, Master Blaster, Higher Ground, I Wish. I mean, need I say more? If I were to recommend anything by Stevie Wonder, it would just be all his work. I don't know, just listen to songs in the key of life. My 8th place songwriter is Kurt Cobain. Now, although he hasn't created as much work as the previous songwriters I mentioned, his impact has been massive through the years. He's influenced so many people, including myself. And, I mean, who doesn't remember the first time they heard Nevermind? 3 songs I would recommend by Kurt Cobain, Nirvana, would be All Apologies, Smells Like Teen Spirit, if by some miracle you haven't heard it, and On a Plane. There's really so many that are quite poetic. My 7th place songwriter is Bob Marley. Growing up, he was one of my favorite artists. I believe everyone goes through a Bob Marley phase at some point. Just with time, I've realized he's an incredible songwriter in his own right. I remember hearing that he really takes everyone's opinion into his songs, and I kind of find that beautiful. And whether it's political, whether it's about love, he's always got something really cool to say. If I were to recommend 3 songs by Bob Marley, they would be I Shot the Sheriff, Redemption Song, and Concrete Jungle. What's up, Luna? You can come up. You okay, Luna? You want to talk in the microphone? Okay. My 6th place songwriter is Prince. Once again, growing up, this guy was one of my favorite artists, and with time, you come to realize how many songs the guy wrote. Also, like Stevie Wonder, the guy is an absolute musical beast. If you've never seen the performance of While My Guitar Gently Weeps as a tribute to George Harrison, he plays one of the most incredible solos. But aside from that, his songwriting is beautiful. If I were to recommend 3 songs by Prince, they would obviously be Purple Rain, The Beautiful Ones, and Forever in My Life. My 5th place songwriter is Neil Young. Now, I used to say that Neil Young was my favorite songwriter, which is kind of true, but with time, things have become apparent. I've discovered other artists, and yeah, I still love Neil Young, though. He's one of the best songwriters that has ever lived, without a doubt. A lot of other people would rank him way higher than I have. Neil Young. He's influenced people like Kurt Cobain. He's influenced Eddie Vedder and so many others in a profound way. I actually remember an interview with Tom York saying that Neil Young was the one person he felt awkward with, which is kind of funny, considering what Tom York's like. If I were to recommend 3 Neil Young songs, they would be Old Man, Harvest Moon, and Unknown Legend. My 4th place songwriter is Bruce Springsteen. Although I never thought of myself as a huge Springsteen fan, year by year I just get into more and more of his songs. There's a depth to him, to his poetry, that few others have. He's a master band leader, and If you've never sat down and listened to the album Nebraska from beginning to end, I highly recommend you do it. If you like Bon Iver and all that kind of thing, you have to listen to Nebraska. If I were to recommend 3 songs by Bruce Springsteen, they would be Thunder Road, Atlantic City, and I'm on Fire. Now, we reached the top 3, which was kind of hard for me because depending on the day and my mood, these artists are really interchangeable, but I really thought about it and looked into my feelings hard, and this is how it is. My third place songwriter is Jackson Browne. I came to Jackson Browne pretty late. I was 23 and living in Brighton, and although I knew Running on Empty and Take It Easy, although I didn't know he wrote the foundation for it, I wasn't very familiar with his work. I don't know why. So I was sitting there watching an episode of Friends. It was one of the first ones, and Rachel's looking out this window, this beautiful scene, and this song comes in that goes, "If you ever need holding, call my name and I'll be there." And needless to say, I paused that and I ran to figure out what that song was, and I found it. It's Sky Blue and Black by Jackson Browne. It absolutely mesmerized me, and I completely forgot about Friends, and I wanted to know more about Jackson Browne. So I listened to Sky Blue and Black over and over and over again. Then I went back to his version of Take It Easy and Running on Empty, just to see if I missed something before. And before I knew it, I was listening to Late for the Sky. I listened to that album on repeat, and I think I teared up every time. It was just beautiful in so many ways. Jackson Browne's songs are like wearing your emotions on your skin. It's totally transparent, sensitive, and beautiful. Now, this man has influenced so many people. I remember Glenn Frey saying when he lived upstairs from him, he could hear Jackson Browne turn that kettle on in the morning, hear the teapot go, right, 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 repeat the same song over and over, then back to the kettle. And he just did the same thing over and over and over again. Bruce Springsteen said the same thing. He might go over to his house, see that Jackson's writing a song, and then 5 years later he releases it. If I were to recommend 3 Jackson Browne songs, they would be Late for the Sky, Sky Blue and Black, and you could go for Take It Easy or The Barricades of Heaven. What you got to remember is Jackson Browne thought Take It Easy wasn't good enough. He put it aside and eventually gave it to Glenn Frey, who kept asking for it, and wrote a beautiful second verse. My second place songwriter was really hard to place because this guy could either be first or second for me. He's meant so much to me through the years. Although the first time I saw him, I thought he was funny. I didn't take him quite seriously. But I was curious, so I went back to him. And I don't know why I kept going back, but eventually I stumbled on a song called Chocolate Jesus. And I kind of liked it. I am, of course, talking about the unique Tom Waits. This man is like an octopus of a songwriter. I think there's something in Tom Waits for everyone. He can write bluesy, jazzy stuff. He can write folksy stuff, rock, experimental, avant-garde kind of stuff. I really don't know how to explain Tom Waits to someone who hasn't listened to him. But if you haven't, please do. The man is amazing. If I were to recommend 3 songs by Tom Waits, there would be I Hope That I Don't Fall in Love with You, Chocolate Jesus, and The House Where Nobody Lives. My first place songwriter may be obvious to many of you, although it surprised me because I never called him my favorite. It is the one and only Bob Dylan. The man's written an ocean of songs upon which you can travel and gaze at the sky. Truly, it's just out of this world what he's done. I mean, what other songwriter wins a Nobel Prize, right? Without him, there wouldn't have been so many others on this list that have influenced me. So I have immense, immense gratitude to Bob Dylan and his songs. May they live on forever. And if you haven't sat down and listened to a bunch of Bob Dylan records over and over, please do. And coming from me, this is big. I always say music comes first. But once in a while, forget the music, print out the lyrics, and just read them. The man is absolutely amazing. If I were to recommend 3 Bob Dylan songs, oh man, this is hard. They would be Shelter from the Storm, A Hard Rain's Gonna Fall, and Hurricane. There are so many others I could recommend, but for me, those are the ones that really caught me off guard. So that's my list. Hopefully you like some of the songwriters. Hopefully you're introduced to something new by this. Feel free to let me know what influences you. There are some honourable mentions that I can't go without saying, and they're, of course, Bernie Taupin and Elton John, Keith Richards and Mick Jagger, Lennon McCartney, George Harrison, Justin Vernon, John Mayer, Tom Petty, Dolly Parton, J.D. Souther, Chris Stapleton, Lil Richard, David Bowie, James Brown, Sting, The Ramones, John Fogerty, Billy Gibbons, REM, Stevie Nicks, Christine McVie, Hank Williams, Robert Johnson, The Doors, David Byrne, Jim Croce, Brian Wilson, Van Morrison. There's really so many songwriters that I wanted to include on this list, but I had to think of the ones that really influenced me the most and the ones that I could never live without. Obviously, this is personal opinion. I'm not saying this is the ultimate list, but it's nice to share, right? So thanks for watching. Feel free to like the video and subscribe if you want to see more. Feel free to trash talk me for not liking the same songwriters as you. And yeah, I'm curious to learn what you like. Have a cool one.